Just now from the Lebanese capital, Beirut, Robert Fisk, correspondent for The Independent, a British newspaper. And Robert, good to have you on the programme. I know you met Osama bin Laden on a couple of occasions. Can we talk about that in just a moment? And first of all, assess the impact that his death might have. Is it entirely symbolic that the head of al-Qaeda is now dead, or is it going to make a difference?
You know, I think he'd become a bit of a non-entity. In his own eyes, his achievement, of course, was to create al-Qaeda, an organization unlike any other, because you don't have to sign up or become a member. You can wake up in the morning and say, I am in al-Qaeda. And I think, in a way, his job, in his own eyes, was pretty much finished. He wasn't a guy who sat there with a button saying, Operation 52, begin now. And I think that the whole Arab awakening, as you rightly call it on Al Jazeera, the revolutions in the Arab world, in a sense, politically killed al-Qaeda. The Muslim Arabs who defeated Mubarak and defeated Ben Ali and are in the business of trying to defeat Assad of Syria and Gaddafi of Libya, they're not asking for an Islamic caliphate, which is what bin Laden was offering them. They want freedom, they want to be able to breathe, and they want liberty. And that's not the same thing at all. That's not what bin Laden thought they should have. And in a sense, you see, I think that the events of the last 3 months, and I would dearly love to know what bin Laden thought about them before he died, the last 3 months have really changed what al-Qaeda might have been and could become. And I don't think we're taking that into account. We're becoming so obsessed with bin Laden dead, Americans celebrate. I mean, no sooner has President Obama been flashing his birth certificate and he's flashing the death certificate of bin Laden. It seems to me that we're not reflecting deep enough on the fact that al-Qaeda was politically defeated by millions of Muslim Arabs who are rising up still as we speak against their leadership.
Possibly politically defeated and possibly irrelevant in the modern Arab world, Robert, but that wouldn't necessarily mean that al-Qaeda is impotent.
No. I mean, I was talking to a good friend of mine in Afghanistan a few hours ago, and she pointed out that the Afghans, and indeed the Pakistanis, are very worried there'll be waves of suicide bombers. And as I've said before in Al Jazeera today, I'm sure we're all going to be bored to discover that there'll be a brigade of the martyr Osama bin Laden quite soon. But I'm not too sure whether, in fact, al-Qaeda wasn't really scaling down quite a lot already. Remember, during the revolutions, until the bombing in Marrakesh of the restaurant in Morocco a few days ago, they hadn't done anything for weeks and weeks and weeks. We hadn't heard from them. Mainly, I think, because this huge explosion in the Arab world had just taken them by surprise. They never guessed it and didn't know what to do.
If the man himself, now dead, thought that his job was done, when you first met him, he believed it was only just beginning, correct?
Yes, when I first met him, he was in the Sudan and was still boasting of his prowess in the war against the Soviet Union, the Russian-occupied Afghanistan, and talking about the mass graves of his colleagues and about how he himself fought the Russians in battle, himself, with his rifle. Second time I met him, he was obsessed with Saudi corruption and the Saudi royal family. And the third time I met him, he was obsessed with America. And that, of course, was when he started making threats against America. I wasn't sure whether he meant them or not. We'd already had bombings in Saudi Arabia, the bombing of Americans in Saudi Arabia. So we knew that, I knew that of his involvement there. He admitted it to me virtually. He knew one of the bombers, in fact, he told me that. But I still didn't know the degree to which he intended to take this war against America.
In terms of being in his company, was it a chilling experience, an enlightening experience, simply fascinating or frightening?
Certainly wasn't frightening. You know, I'd met him in Sudan, and I never tried to see him. He tried to see me. It was always a message from him that he wanted to see me. In fact, the first time he wanted to see me in Afghanistan, I was very concerned that it was a trap by the Pakistani or Egyptian intelligence to bring me to Peshawar, kill me, and claim bin Laden did it. In fact, to check it out, I called up someone who knew him, and he said he'd meet me in the Belgravia Sheraton Hotel in London. And I didn't know if I believed him or not, but I was staying there, and reception called and said, there's a gentleman to see you in the lobby. And I came downstairs, and it's a very, well, it doesn't exist anymore. It's a very smart hotel, people in beautiful suits and smoking cigars and so on. And standing by reception was a man in a long white robe with plastic sandals and a giant black beard. And I thought, this has got to be the guy. And it was. And he said, there's no problem, it's bin Laden, you'll be safe. So I didn't have any fear, no. But it was a strange meeting.
Does it seem strange now to think that he is dead?
No, I have to admit, when I learned in the early hours of this morning, far too early, that he was dead, I was indifferent. I didn't feel anything. You know, I thought for a long time that whether he was alive or dead. Remember, we had lots and lots of reports that he'd died of food poisoning, kidney failure, etc. I've thought he was a pretty irrelevant guy now. So I was interested in the news. I'm a journalist, but I was indifferent to it. I've known an awful lot of people who've died and been killed in the Middle Eastern region, and many of them have been good people and innocent people, which bin Laden was not.
Robert Fisk, thank you very much indeed. Good to have you with us here on Al Jazeera.